A flurry of sword strikes came flying at Jae-hyun like a blender on overdrive. Jun Sang was clearly trying to turn him into diced meat, but all he managed to cut was air. Again. And again. And again. Now drenched in sweat and ego damage, Jun Sang still hadn't landed a single hit. That's when Jae-hyun smirked and said, "Wow, Jun Sang. You're something else. How are you even still alive with that roly-poly body of yours?" With one swift motion, he crushed Jun Sang's sword like it was a breadstick. "Alright, I'll give you 3 seconds. Hand over your name tag, and scram." 3 awkward seconds passed. Jun Sang didn't move a muscle, he was still frozen, trying to process how the hunter had suddenly become the prey. Naturally, what came next was a legendary move from Jae-hyun, a direct punch straight to the gut, powerful enough to shake Jun Sang's soul, and possibly his lunch. That hit screamed one thing: know your place, chunky boy. Meanwhile, back in the Academy's central control room, the professors received a system alert. Player eliminated. No biggie, probably just another newbie getting kicked to the curb. Happens all the time. But then they saw the name. Min Jae-hyun, 100,000 points earned. Wait. What? Wasn't it supposed to be a Ho Jun racking up points like a slot machine? The staff instantly turned to the guides, demanding to know if the system glitched. Meanwhile, Principal Gu was still chilling in the corner like he had tickets to the show. Min Jae-hyun, he muttered, finally putting a name to the freshman causing chaos. Outside the control room, teachers were flipping tables over the fact that one of their veteran students had just been taken down by a newbie. Total meltdown. Back inside the training zone, Sojun wasn't exactly thriving either. Still in shock, she watched as Jae-hyun calmly assigned roles to Ju Sung and Xiao Aina like a seasoned commander. They had to wrap this up fast before Sojun could call backup. Sojun, in her panic, cursed her partner Jun Sang under her breath. If that walking meatball hadn't botched everything, they wouldn't be in this mess. She assessed the situation quickly. Even without Jae-hyun, a 3v1 wasn't ideal. Her best bet now? Take out one target fast and escape. With that, she pulled out a dagger and lunged, straight at Ju Sung. Yeah, bad idea. Just from Jae-hyun's eyes, you could tell how much faith he had in his friend. Ju Sung had already proven her tactical chops, and clearly wasn't just there to look pretty. Sojun had just made the mistake of poking the wrong part of the beehive. And so, one after another, Sojun hurled a flurry of throwing knives like she was auditioning for a circus act. But every single one of them got smacked down effortlessly by Ju Sung's magic barrier. On the other side, Jae-hyun figured it was time to step in. He was all geared up for the classic cool hero swoops in to save the day moment, only for the spotlight to be completely hijacked. Enter, Xiao Aina. With a flick of her hand, a sword appeared. But not just any sword, Jae-hyun recognized it instantly. That was the sword, the one that made her a legend in his previous life. The Sword of Enfame. No need for introductions, because the next second, Sojun was officially deleted from the match. That's when it hit her, she didn't just mess with a strong opponent. She had walked into a trio of monsters. A moment later, the system chimed in, player 1 Sojun has been eliminated. Based on contribution, Ju Sung and Xiao Aina each received 100,000 points. Not too shabby. With the dust settling, the girls circled back to earlier negotiations. Ju Sung looked at Aina and asked, so, that party invite still on the table? Because, 100,000 points kinda makes things official. Meanwhile, Jae-hyun just stood there, mentally updating her profile in his head. Yeah. Seo Aina was definitely not the same girl the TV made her out to be. A few minutes later, deep in the lovely-sounding Nightmare Forest ecosystem, a group of upperclassmen were crouched over some footprints like wannabe forest rangers. Looks like the rookies are holed up at the shelter just ahead, one of them guessed, clearly feeling like a seasoned tracker. Another student suddenly got nervous. Wait, what if it's them? The group that wiped out Sojun and Jun Sang? But their team leader shut it down quickly, trying to act cool. Calm down. The game's 3 days long. No way those kids just camp inside the whole time. All we gotta do is wait it out and nab 'em when they pop their heads out. Easy pickings. Yeah, about that. Unbeknownst to them, Zhu Sung had been eavesdropping nearby the whole time, because of course she was, and she didn't just listen in, she fired a shot and took one of them out right on the spot. The seniors froze, completely blindsided. One of their guys just got dropped like a sack of potatoes. The heck? How dare those little brats ambush us like that? Fuming, the leader pointed straight at Zhu Sung, who was already making her grand escape, and barked, after her. Too bad for them, they were running headfirst into a trap. Because everything had gone exactly according to plan. Zhu Sung glanced over her shoulder at the 5 upperclassmen huffing and puffing behind her like starving wolves chasing a drumstick. And what did she do? She grinned like a maniac and threw some verbal shade their way while running. Classic Zhu. Naturally, those prideful seniors weren't going to take that kind of smack talk from a junior lying down. Their egos flared harder than their mana cores, and just like that, the chase was on, tense enough to snap a harp string. Now, this thrilling game of tag? All part of Jae Hyun's master plan. He had said it himself, sure, shelters are safe, but no one can hole up for 3 full days without food, water, or points. So why not flip the script and go hunting, for the hunters? Cut to Zhu Sung, who had just successfully lured the seniors into the marked zone. But it came at a cost. After burning through her mana reserves for so long, she was running on fumes. Now it was all up to Jae Hyun. If he screwed this up, they'd all be toast. Flashback to just before school started, Jae Hyun had a little pre-enrollment chat with the alchemy nerd Lee Jae Sang. The topic? How to deal with paralyzing spore fungus that shows up during the rookie hunt. Jae Sang explained that the best counter was sap from the ash tree, a super common plant in the nightmare forest. Great for treatment, not so much for prevention. Still, even that little nugget of plant wisdom might just be the key to surviving this twisted freshman welcome party. After a solid chase, the upperclassmen suddenly had that gut feeling, something was off. A quick scan of the surroundings confirmed it, they'd stumbled right into a spore mushroom zone. One of them whispered, should we maybe, leave? But their fearless leader was already seeing red. Sure, he knew this area screamed hazardous, but instead of turning back, he doubled down. Another teammate dared to voice some common sense, maybe rethink this, and got rewarded with a deadly glare. Sung Hoon got flattened by a freshman and now you want to give up too, the captain snarled. After some dramatic back and forth, the leader got his way. If we're right, that orange-haired brat is already poisoned, he smirked. Bok Sung-hyo, you stand guard. The rest of you, with me. And like that, 4 wannabe dungeon bosses stormed into the forest. On the way, the team leader had a lightbulb moment, maybe, just maybe, the orange-haired girl was bait to lure them into a trap. But nah, he shook it off. We've got 4 people, we'll smash whatever they've got planned. Soon enough, they spotted Zhu Sung just chilling by a tree. There she is, he yelled. Get her. But instead of panic, Zhu Sung flashed a devilish smile. Oh, you came. Excellent. Step right up if you think you're tough enough. Especially you, big mouth. Don't think I forgot your trash talk. Bait? Successfully taken. And with that final taunt, the 4 geniuses charged in like rabid dogs. Perfect timing. With one graceful flick of her hand, spores detonated all around her, releasing a 50-meter toxic cloud. Yup, instant mushroom madness. Flashback to earlier that day, Jae Hyun had shared a secret strat with Zhu Sung and Seo Ina, something about a position swap skill and gathering a specific plant. Turns out? That specific plant was none other than good ol' ash tree sap, the perfect antidote for paralyzing mushroom poison. Combine that with a sneaky teleport trick, and voila, a lovely little death trap, gift-wrapped for their favorite upperclassmen. Game on. Back to the present. With Ju Sung's signal lighting up the airwaves, Jae Hyun knew it was go time. Meanwhile, the senior students were mid-meltdown. That little psycho. She poisoned us all, and herself too. What a genius-level idiot. Well, not quite. Actually, only one of them got nuked by the spores. And that poor soul? Yep, it was you, Captain. At the exact moment the spores exploded, Ju Sung had already activated her swap skill with Jae Hyun. So while the seniors were busy inhaling fungus fumes, Ju Sung yeeted out of there. Now, with their nervous systems on pause mode, the seniors were sitting ducks, making it extremely convenient for Jae Hyun and Seo Aina to do what needed to be done. By which I mean, absolutely clobber them. The captain, still somehow able to move his lips, started trash-talking like a sore loser. You idiot. You've been poisoned too. I even left a man guarding the exit. The moment this fog clears, you're all. Yeah, no, Jae Hyun cut in, casually flexing. Your guy outside? Pretty sure Seo Aina already handled him. Might even be toast by now. Ding. Just like clockwork, the notification popped up, Bok Sung-hyo has been eliminated. Captain's face went whiter than uncooked tofu. He looked like someone had unplugged his soul. So, Jae Hyun smirked, what's the plan now? Your turn? With no cards left to play, the captain pulled out the last resort, denial. Give it, 2 hours, tops. Once the paralysis wears off, I swear I'll wreck you. Jae Hyun gave him the kind of look that said, you serious right now? Spoiler alert, that comeback window? Not happening. Not on Jae Hyun's watch. The captain's eyes screamed, why am I the only one poisoned? But before he could even finish that thought, Jae Hyun served him a one-way ticket off the artificial planet. No refund, no seatbelt, just bye-bye. With their fearless leader now orbiting the stratosphere, Jae Hyun turned toward the 3 remaining seniors with an expression so mischievous it should have come with a warning label. One by one, they got the deluxe elimination package, complete with a chorus of Aya, as their points evaporated into the bank accounts of Team Jae Hyun. Outside, in the control room, the faculty stared at the monitors like someone had just rewritten the laws of physics. Never before had so many senior students been wiped out in one go. The rankings now read. First place, Min Jae Hyun. Second place, Kim Ju Sung and Seo Aina. Back inside the simulation zone, Ju Sung had just finished chugging his antidote like an energy drink. According to Seo Aina's update, everything was going according to plan. And now she had questions, lots of them. So, that Jae Hyun guy on our team, she began. He seems weirdly good at magic. Ju Sung, still catching his breath, nodded. Crazy part? He only started using magic 2 months ago. I was the one who taught him the basics. Seo Aina gave him the are you serious right now face but eventually nodded. That's terrifying. At this point, both teammates were asking themselves the same thing. Who exactly is this Jae Hyun guy we teamed up with? And does he sleep in a lab or something? A short while later, the trio finally regrouped. Ju Sung looked like the proud dad of a winning science fair team. Though, peace and quiet were clearly too much to ask, because someone just had to keep roasting our poor main guy. Seriously, no matter how clutch Jae Hyun was in battle, one word from her and he magically turned into a certified clown. Nearby, Seo Aina could only shake her head. Good looking on the outside, brain dead on the inside? That poor guy. Later that night, back at their temporary hideout, Jae Hyun was busy whipping up some sort of magical potion. According to him, it was a stamina elixir, perfect for recovery. Of course, what he didn't mention was that he had failed to brew it at least 100 times while learning it from Jae Sang. But hey, details. Seo Aina watched in genuine curiosity. You're seriously impressive, Jae Hyun. You don't seem anything like a kid our age. Cue inner panic. Jae Hyun now had only one prayer left, please, just go to sleep and stop with the Sherlock Holmes act before I get exposed. Luckily, Ju Sung jumped in at just the right time to change the subject. You two wait here, I'll cook something for the team. And with that, all of Jaehyun's peaceful dreams turned to nightmares. He could already picture the infamous purple sponge cake dish Ju-sung once called food. His face twitched. His stomach screamed. He silently begged Seo Ina for help, and, miracle of miracles, she knew how to cook. Enter the magical chef, Seo Ina. Within minutes, she served up a bowl of steaming soup that, while looking like some kind of arcane sludge, still smelled edible. And in this group, that was more than enough to qualify it as a 5-star meal, especially compared to Ju-sung's, culinary crimes. Meanwhile, outside the academy's control center, the mood among the faculty was less than thrilled. You'd think someone had cancelled their lunch orders. The reason? The latest rankings. Everyone had high hopes for sword prodigy A Ho-jun, but the guy ended up in 4th place. And who's hogging the top spots? 2 mages. That's right, magic users. The teachers were whispering about system bugs and server errors. Surely this had to be a glitch. But not everyone was sulking. In the corner, the headmaster was practically glowing. This is fantastic, he exclaimed like someone who'd just seen a unicorn do calculus. Usually, it's the melee maniacs who dominate these events. But this? A bunch of scrawny spellcasters outplaying the beefy seniors? I need to see that again. He barked at his assistant to rewind the footage from the Mushroom Forest fight. Look at this guy, his judgment, his risk assessment, his tactical timing. It's perfect. Unbelievable. A mage like that at my academy? What was his name again? Min Jae-hyun. From the transfer class. Just then, another assistant came running in with a folder. Sir, we've gathered background info on this Jae-hyun kid, just like you asked. But I'm not sure how accurate it is. That raised a few eyebrows. The headmaster took the file and flipped it open. Then he froze. Magic aptitude, 97%? What the actual? The man burst out laughing. This is insane. Incredible. And then, with the kind of grin villains usually get before launching a grand scheme, he ordered the staff to get ready. It's time to put our rising star to the test. Let's see what this little mage is really made of. Back inside the artificial planet playground, our trio had been grinding for hours, and their total score had now hit a whopping 1.1 million points. Not bad for a bunch of freshmen with magic tricks and good hair. But of course, Ju-sung had a question. She turned to Jae-hyun with that suspicious look only friends with trust issues have and asked, why did we even leave the shelter in the first place? Jae-hyun shrugged like it was obvious. To farm more points, duh. Even Selena nodded in agreement. She understood that by now, most of the students were too terrified to step foot near the nightmare forest. So, if they wanted to climb higher on the leaderboard, this was the only path left, literally. Oh, and about that leaderboard. According to Selena, who, by the way, might be the most competitive spellcaster in the history of friendly competition, the all-time rookie high score was 1.14 million points. Which, of course, meant she wasn't going to sleep until they beat it. Everything was going fine, just a bunch of magical teens casually chasing high scores in a cursed forest, until suddenly. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. A wave of movement, branches cracking, and Jae-hyun's danger senses went off like a fire alarm. He spun around and yelled, "Get ready! Something's coming, fast!" And boy, was it fast. In a flash of blinding light, a figure landed right in front of him. Jae-hyun took one look at the technique that guy just used and instantly knew, whatever skill that was, it definitely wasn't S-Rank. Not even close. Then the system chimed in with the worst possible news. Warning, dimensional integrity unstable. All combat restrictions temporarily disabled. And there it was. Another lovely surprise cooked up by their favorite chaos-loving headmaster. Because, of course, the man couldn't resist spicing things up. Standing in front of Team Jae-hyun, emerging from the glowing chaos like a boss-level cutscene, was none other than the Academy's golden boy, Hojin. At least, it looked like Hojin. But something was off. Like, really off. His expression was blank, his aura was, weirdly murdery, and he was ignoring every question Jae-hyun threw at him. Selena, analyzing like a true combat nerd, offered a terrifying possibility: either he's completely lost it, or someone else is piloting that body. And with that single sentence, Jae-hyun's eyes narrowed. There was only one man sick enough to pull off this kind of magical identity theft. The human trash fire himself. See, before Jae-hyun rewound time, something eerily similar happened, during the Millis Academy Festival. What was supposed to be a wholesome day of fun turned into a magical apocalypse. The culprit? Gu Jaehyun's natural skill, mind control. When his secret was exposed, he did what every cartoon villain does: he nuked the place and vanished. That disaster ended up costing Kim Joo-sung his life, and burned an image into Jae-hyun's mind he'd never forget. So yeah, this wasn't just another fight. This was personal. Before jumping in, though, the system decided to pop in with its usual last-minute side quest. Side quest activated. Rescue the brainwashed student. Reward: 1 anti-control token. Penalty: none. Yeah, that's totally not suspicious at all. Classic system, giving you a shiny prize while throwing you into a deathmatch. Jae-hyun accepted without hesitation. He turned to his teammates and barked out orders like a true strategist under pressure. You two, run. Get out of here as fast as you can. And hey, if you spot any bonus points along the way, you know what to do. Because right now, Hojin wasn't just a threat. He was a ticking magical bomb wearing a familiar face, and someone had to defuse it. Seeing Jae-hyun about to go solo against the human wrecking ball in front of him, Joo-sung immediately yanked his arm back and hissed, "Wait, you seriously don't know who that is? That guy's a Ho-jun. The sword prodigy. The one literally everyone in Korea talks about." Jae-hyun blinked. Then gave her a look. The kind of look that said, "Girl, you must be seriously underestimating me right now." And with that smirk, full of reckless confidence, he simply replied with his face. That was all Selena needed. She took one glance at his expression and sighed. He's already made up his mind, hasn't he? Alright, fine, she added, nudging Joo-sung. Let's get out of here and let Mr. Overpowered do his thing. Joo-sung, clearly still not convinced, looked back one last time. Seriously, how do you guys come up with this stuff? One guy versus a possessed swordsman? Whatever, we're out. Before Jae-hyun could say anything else, Joo-sung grabbed Selena by the wrist and stormed off, muttering something about farming points instead of dying. Flashback time, a few minutes before Hojin got magically hijacked. At that point, he'd already racked up a solid 600,000 points, pretty impressive for just 2 days of stress-fueled dungeon crawling. While admiring the leaderboard and internally weeping over how Min Jae-hyun somehow had more points than him, his peaceful moment was interrupted by, of course, a call from the headmaster. Hello, Ho-jun. I have a favor to ask. That favor turned out to be exactly the disaster we just witnessed. Right now, Ho-jun was going full anime mode, unleashing wave after wave of high-level attacks like someone had just uninstalled his limiter. Turns out, when the planet's restrictions are turned off, so is the chill. The guy was now slinging A-rank martial skills like it was buy one get one free at the power store. His muscles were glowing, his aura was screaming, and honestly, it looked like someone shoved a power generator into a martial artist and said, "Go nuts." Watching this absolute unit of destruction charge at him, Jae-hyun couldn't believe this was the same guy he met a few days ago, the slightly cocky, sword-swinging golden boy. This wasn't the same Ho-jun. This version felt like a DLC boss with an attitude problem. Not only was he stronger, he was faster, sharper, and 10 times more aggressive. Truth be told, Jae-hyun had to admit, if it came down to raw power alone, he was on the back foot. But hey, let's not forget the big picture. This wasn't really Ho Jun anymore. Just a meat puppet doing tricks under some villain's remote control. Annoying? Sure. Dangerous? Extremely. But solvable? Absolutely. Jae-hyun cracked his knuckles. Time to fix the Wi-Fi signal in that boy's brain. Right after that, Jae-hyun kicked things up a notch. Activating his speed boost skill, he began zipping circles around Ho Jun like a mosquito on an energy drink. He was waiting for an opening, poking at weak spots, ready to deliver a clean, tactical smackdown. He even threw in his logic skill, fully expecting it to land like a game-winning critical hit. Except, it didn't. Ho Jun, against all expectations, dodged it, again. His eyes didn't even track Jae-hyun's movements, but his body? It just knew. Auto-dodge mode, activated. It was like fighting someone with battle instincts hardwired into their spinal cord. At that moment, Jae-hyun had to admit, this wasn't just any puppet. This was the sword genius everyone hyped him up to be. Okay, plan B. Clearly, this wasn't going to be the quick fight he'd imagined. But the real problem? That dude watching from the sidelines. Oh yeah, Jae-hyun could feel his gaze, probably the evil headmaster, sipping tea and enjoying the drama like it's Netflix. Fine. If he wants a show, he'll get one. Jae-hyun smirked. There was no way he was going to wrap this up like some boring side quest. If Gu Jae-in wanted entertainment, then it was time to raise the curtain. Time to show him what the real Jae-hyun could do. The moment that thought popped into Jae-hyun's head, he kicked things into overdrive, unleashing his strongest skills like it was the season finale of an action series. Meanwhile, back at the control center, the instructors and staff were sweating bullets. What in the name of magical mayhem are we even watching right now? One blurted out, clearly questioning every career decision that led them here. A mage. Fighting like a martial artist. Against the sword prodigy of the entire nation. And not just fighting, dominating. It was like watching a rabbit beat up a lion with a carrot. Back inside the arena, things were clearly tilting in one direction. Ho Jun was down bad. After that last hit from Jae-hyun, he was barely staying upright. Huh, still standing? Jae-hyun tilted his head. You're tougher than I thought, good. That means the next hit won't be too much. Then, boom. Jae-hyun pulled out a new trick from his magic bag of chaos, Flash Bomb. And just like that, every single monitor, every screen broadcasting the fight, went completely white. Viewers? Blinded. Teachers? Panicking. Headmaster? Breaking his remote like a madman. Yeah, Jae-hyun basically said, no spoilers for you, and hit them with the magical equivalent of pulling the plug on live TV. The headmaster, now fuming like a kettle about to boil, mashed buttons on the remote like it owed him money. Didn't matter. The white screen held firm. One instructor, trying to play it cool, quietly explained. Sir, it's likely that Min Jae-hyun used a visibility blocking spell. And so what? The headmaster snapped, still smashing his poor remote. Then, like a villain plotting in broad daylight, he turned toward instructor Kim Selji and said. Make sure Min Jae-hyun comes to my office after this little festival is over. Selji blinked. Already? Why so urgent, sir? The headmaster just let out a cold chuckle. Isn't it obvious, Instructor Kim? He could have ended that match in front of all of us. But instead, he made sure we couldn't see it. He's not just strong. He's smart enough to make the whole academy curious. Back in the field, just a second after dropping a blinding flat bomb, Jae-hyun zipped straight to Ho Jun and broke the mind control spell with a clean cast of absolute purification. Bye-bye brainwash, hello awkward clarity. Within seconds, Ho Jun's eyes cleared, consciousness restored. Sort of. He tried to get up like a main character making a comeback speech but immediately dropped like a wet mop. Turns out getting smacked around while brainwashed still hurts after you're cured. Who knew? Jae-hyun gave him a quick rundown of everything that had happened during his magical blackout. He didn't name names, no need to drop the Gujain bomb just yet. He just vaguely said someone had used some high-tier spell on him. Ho-jun, using that legendary sword genius brain of his, immediately deduced. A spell that strong? Had to be at least A rank. No way that came from inside the simulation. Jae-hyun nodded but waved it off for now. One step at a time. He figured that after Ho-jun had spent enough time at Millis Academy, he'd get it. He'd understand exactly what kind of man Headmaster Gu Jae-in really was. Spoiler alert, it ain't good. While Ho-jun was lying on the ground looking like he'd been hit by a magical freight train, Jae-hyun, just a few steps away, was grinning ear to ear. Why? Because in his hand was a shiny little prize, a white card. The reward for completing the side quest. Basically, the universe had just told him, good job, champ. Meanwhile, Ho-jun was staring at Jae-hyun and couldn't help but feel the gap between them. Same fight, very different outcomes. Jae-hyun looked like he just finished a warm-up. Ho-jun? More like a walking hospital bill. Was this his limit? Even so, the sword genius mustered up enough strength to apologize. Sorry, he muttered. All of this mess was my fault. But Jae-hyun? Didn't bat an eye. He just gave a small shrug, like, bro, it's Tuesday. No big deal. Then he turned around, ready to be on his way. Wait, Ho-jun called out. Then, with the grace of someone who'd just lost a boss battle, he tossed something at Jae-hyun. Jae-hyun caught it, and did a double take. It was Ho-jun's name card. What are you doing? Jae-hyun asked, practically yelling. If you give this up, you'll get disqualified. But Ho-jun only smiled, the chill, noble kind of smile that says I've made peace with this anime-level decision. I'll earn my points back later, he said. I might not be on your level, but I'm still one of the top players here. Besides, I lost fair and square. So that card? It's yours. Jae-hyun just stood there, probably wondering how this turned into a shounen sports drama. With his name tag gone, Ho-jun was swiftly teleported out of the semi-dimension. And of course, like every proper anime rival ever, he didn't leave without dropping the classic "next time, I'll defeat you" line. This earned Team Jae-hyun a modest 10,000 points, not even close to what veteran tags were worth, but for Jae-hyun, this meant the world. Why? Because that wasn't just any win. That was a combat genius, someone Jae-hyun had long admired from afar, finally acknowledging the power of a magic user like him. It wasn't about the points, it was about the validation. The past, the humiliation, the doubt, finally, he could leave it all behind. Time to start a brand new chapter. As the final hours ticked by, the 72-hour Millis Academy Festival finally came to a close. And the top spot? Yeah, no surprise there, Team Jae-hyun, Ju Sung, and Seo Aina. Final score, 1,530,000 points. A new school record. And meanwhile, the rest of the students looked like a zombie horde after a 3-day marathon of running for their lives. Adding insult to injury, there's Jae-hyun standing there, with that smug, I could have done better look. Dude just shattered a school record and still looks like he's waiting for dessert. Right next to him? Seo Aina, wearing the same expression, like the points just weren't pointy enough. Ju Sung, their ever-suffering teammate, could only sigh. At this rate, one of them was definitely going to stress her into early retirement. That said, let's give credit where credit's due, those three were about to live the high life. With their current score? Multiply it by 10 and voila, over 15 million won in prize money. And wait, there's more. According to Jae-hyun, the top team gets an extra 1 million bonus points. Translation: 25 million won for 3 days of chaos. Yep, full send party mode unlocked. Ju Sung and Seo Aina immediately started celebrating like they'd just won the lottery, completely ignoring the death glares from every other student nearby. Show-offs. Hope you choke on your own smugness. And right as the vibes were peaking, a voice cut through the joy like a tax bill in January. Hello everyone. I'm Coach Kim Selzy. The team turned, confused. Ju Sung raised an eyebrow. Coach Kim gave him a polite but ominous nod. I have something to discuss with the three of you, but not here. Director Gu Ja-in wants to see you. Cue instant mood crash. A few minutes later, in the headmaster's office. The trio arrived, but surprise. No headmaster. Just an empty chair and Coach Selzy, who now looked like she was auditioning for a ghost story. Ju Sung and Selena were practically clinging to each other like extras in a horror flick. What else could they do but sit and wait? Eventually, the man of the hour finally strolled in. Classic power move. Make him sweat a bit to flex those administrative muscles. As soon as he started speaking, both Selena and Ju Sung shot up like well-trained honor students. Jae-hyun? Nah. Our guy stayed seated, legs crossed, casual as if he owned the place. It was giving, nice office, but my living room's better. The others could only scream internally. Bro, is this really the time to alpha flex on the principal? Even though Headmaster Gu was definitely grinding his teeth over Jae-hyun's smug attitude, he managed to keep it together. Cool as ever, he took his seat and spoke politely. Apologies for the delay. I needed a bit of time to prepare for today's meeting. But Jae-hyun? Nope. Still full sass mode. Well, we weren't exactly prepped either. 3 days rolling around the simulation jungle doesn't leave much time for showers or hair gel, you know? Internally, Gu was screaming. This little punk's got guts the size of a dragon's liver. But on the outside? Still poker-faced. Of course, Jae-hyun could smell that fake chill from a mile away. He thought. Oh, so you still value your precious prodigies, huh? Time to cut the small talk. Gu finally moved on to the main course. I prepared something quite special for you three, consider it compensation for the wait. But first, congratulations, he continued, sounding more like a game show host than a headmaster. You've taken the top 3 spots in the Freshman Hunter Festival. And Min Jae-hyun, especially, you crushed the leaderboard with flying colors. And what did our hero say? He shrugged it off and redirected all the praise to his teammates like it was hot coal. Typical Jae-hyun, humble in the pettiest way possible. Headmaster Gu squinted, gears turning. So he doesn't want to stand out too much, huh? But he wasn't about to let that slide just yet. I've been watching you, Jae-hyun, he said, voice low and deliberate. But I wonder, was that really your full power? You shattered the all-time record like it was a rice cracker. That level of performance isn't exactly normal. His eyes twinkled. A score like that isn't just impressive. It's nearly impossible. The headmaster kept dragging out his words like he was in a soap opera, leaving the rest of the group completely in the dark. Jae-hyun, who'd clearly had enough of this dramatic build-up, cut in with a sigh. Look, how about we skip the suspense and get to the point? Headmaster Gu, realizing his Oscar performance wasn't working, finally got to business. Ahem. Well then. The Millis Academy would like to offer you a few exclusive perks. First, free access to our premium dormitory facilities. Second, permission to use all of our elite training grounds, something very few students get. And lastly, if any of your evaluation scores aren't to your liking, we'll let you retake the tests. He grinned. So, what do you say to those benefits? All you have to do is sign a little cooperation contract with Millis. Before he could even finish, Jae-hyun casually leaned back and replied. Yeah, sounds kinda nice and all. But honestly? We could probably earn that much in a month on our own. And if Millis values talent so much, he added, why would I need to sign a deal just to get rewarded for mine? Especially one that includes commissions? Then, as smooth as butter, he reached out and snatched the contract off the table for a closer look. Moments later, his eyebrows shot up. Oh wow, you've got to be kidding me. If we sign this, we have to work as official conquerors under Millis for 5 whole years. And give up 30% of our income to the school? He started reading off the ridiculous clauses one by one like a talk show roast segment, completely ignoring the headmaster's face, which was now twisted like someone had just served him a lemon smoothie without sugar. Headmaster Gu Jian, let me get this straight, Jae Hyun said, flashing the contract like it was a used napkin. You call this a reward? It's more like a fancy excuse to milk us dry. Or wait, am I misunderstanding your generosity here? The room fell into an awkward silence thick enough to cut with a spoon. Eventually, Headmaster Gu cleared his throat and gave a diplomatic shrug. Of course, I'm not forcing any of you to sign. The choice is entirely yours. Spoiler alert, all 3 of them made the same choice, hard pass. Ju Sung and Seo Ina echoed Jae Hyun's rejection without hesitation. Gu Jian just sighed deeply, like a man who dropped his ice cream cone on the sidewalk. A shame. A real shame, he muttered, shaking his head. That was the best offer I could give. But just when things seemed to wrap up, the old man wasn't done yet. I suppose you need a little persuasion, he said smoothly, raising his hand and casting a spell. Yeah. That's right. The man actually tried to brainwash Jae Hyun. Cute. Too bad Jae Hyun had a passive blessing from the goddess Hei that completely nullified status effects. Translation? That trick bounced right off like a Nerf dart hitting a tank. And the worst part? Jae Hyun was delighted by the attempt. In fact, as the spell fizzled, he smirked and thought. Thanks, old man. That's exactly what I was waiting for. He instantly copied the brainwashing skill, burning a white card to seal the deal. Then he stood up, completely unbothered, dusted off his clothes, and waved. Well, it's been weird, but we'll be leaving now. Thanks for the entertainment. See you next time, coach, he added, smirking like he owned the building. One by one, the trio walked out, leaving trainer Cog drenched in nervous sweat like he'd just run a marathon. Now alone with Gu Jian, trainer Kim also got excused. And the headmaster? He sat there, staring into the void, a single burning quest. How in the world did that freshman resist a natural-type spell? Oh yeah. Something spicy was definitely about to go down. Meanwhile, outside the office, the trio was already gossiping like kids after a parent-teacher conference. Something about the headmaster felt off. Like seriously off. The guy had gone from wise mentor to suspicious Bond villain in under 5 minutes. Seo in awe, being the most observant of the bunch, pointed out something else. Did anyone notice how chill Jae Hyun usually is, but the moment that guy walked in, he looked ready to start a bar fight? When asked directly, Jae Hyun just shrugged and offered his usual cryptic advice. Don't trust anyone. Not the headmaster. Not your instructors. Not even your favorite lunch lady. Oh really? Seo In-ah raised a brow. Then what about you, Jae Hyun? Can we trust you? Before he could reply, Ju Sung jumped in like a ghost with unfinished business. Yeah, right. Trust him? That guy once abandoned me mid-battle to chase a loot chest. And it wasn't even rare. The 2 of them immediately dove into a half-serious, half-slapstick brawl right there in the hallway, like siblings fighting over who gets the front seat. Eventually, they called a ceasefire and decided to go their separate ways. Boys' dorm on the right, girls' dorm on the left. With a final wave, they reminded each other, don't be late tomorrow. First day of classes, remember? And just like that, Jae Hyun headed back to his assigned room. The moment he stepped inside, the nostalgia hit him like a musty sock to the face. The cracked tiles. The creaky bed frame. The distinct smell of mold that screamed student housing on a budget. It had been a long, long time since he set foot in this place. One glance around and he already knew, this dump wasn't gonna cut it. Yeah, time to find a new place. Preferably one that doesn't come with complimentary respiratory infections. The next morning at Millis Academy, while the sky was still half asleep, there he was, Jae-hyun, already doing laps around the campus like he was starring in a fitness commercial. Was he building stamina? Training hard? Nah. If you ask me, the guy was just showing off. Anyway, fast forward a few hours and the first class of the new semester officially kicked off. The instructor? A woman named Kim Ji-yoon, apparently teaching Mana Control 101. Jae-hyun tilted his head the moment he heard the name. Kim Ji-yoon? Who? Not a single bell rang in his memory, and that's saying something, considering he had memories from a whole previous life. According to what he remembered, she wasn't on staff before, maybe she was one of those one-and-done lecturers who quit early? But here's something everyone in the awakened world knows by heart. Getting a teaching job at Millis Academy is harder than squeezing toothpaste back into the tube. And those who do make it? Let's just say they'd sell their morals, their souls, and their grandmother's rice cooker if Gu-ja-in waved a fancy enough bribe in their face. Back in class, Professor Ji-yoon wasted no time and addressed the crowd. I'm sure some of you are wondering why we're gathered in this massive hall instead of a boring old classroom. Well, yeah. That's because today, we're going to test your mana sensitivity. And just like that, the stage was set, not for learning, but for exposing just how bad some of these kids were at actually being magical. As soon as she finished speaking, a glowing blue mass of mana quietly materialized behind Ji-yoon, and just like that, the entire class broke into a wave of whispers. Wait, we're going into that thing? On the first day? Yeah, safe to say no one was emotionally prepared to walk into a glowing space orb before breakfast. Even Jae-hyun raised an eyebrow. He'd seen something like this before, a mana chamber back at the guild, though he had to admit, this one seemed a bit weaker than the monstrous one controlled by Guildmaster Song-eun. Anyway, Instructor Ji-yoon continued her TED Talk on Mana Domes 101. This structure you see here has been modified specifically for students like you, since, let's be real, none of you could handle the original version without passing out. As she gestured toward the glowing sphere, the interior layout became clearer. It was separated into multiple chambers, kind of like mana escape rooms. The first chamber had mana density similar to normal atmosphere, nothing fancy. But as you progressed deeper inside, the pressure would increase significantly. Most new students usually manage to get to level 3, Ji-yoon said. Graduating elites can sometimes reach level 7. And so, it was time. Time for these bright-eyed first years to personally experience just how much mana pressure their fragile little bodies could handle. After a quick and sassy tutorial, Professor Ji-yoon clapped her hands and lined the students up like they were heading into a magical theme park, minus the fun, snacks, or any hope of survival. If you feel like your organs are about to explode, she said casually, just raise your hand. A guide will escort you out before things get messy. Lovely. Level 1? Child's play. Each batch of students strolled through like they were on a school field trip. Level 2? Still manageable, though now you could spot a few nervous glances and trembling knees. A handful of students tapped out early, but most kept going, still clinging to that sweet, sweet academic pride. Level 3, 4, then 5, and finally 6. With each level, the air got heavier, the pressure stronger, and the classroom ego levels started collapsing like sandcastles in a tsunami. By the time the dust settled, only 4 brave souls remained standing in Chamber 6. Min Jae-hyun, Kim Joo-sung, Seo In-ah, and Lee Soo-hyo. These were the top-scoring rookies from the Academy's entrance exam, and, naturally, all eyes were on Jae-hyun. After all, the guy wasn't just strong. He was mysterious, oddly calm under pressure, and had already caught the eye of Principal Gu-ja-in. Not that Ji-yoon cared. She wasn't the type to follow orders just because some creepy principal told her to keep an eye on a student. If Jae-hyun was special, she'd find out the old-fashioned way, by throwing him into danger and watching what happened. Level 7 is now open. You may proceed, Ji-yoon announced calmly, like she wasn't just sending 4 students into what basically amounted to a magical pressure cooker. And just like that, the 4 of them, Jae-hyun, Joo-sung, Seo In-ah, and Soo-hyo, walked through the gate while the rest of the class could only stare, seething with jealousy. What are those kids made of? Steel? Mana-infused protein powder? Weren't these levels supposed to be for seniors only? Before anyone could recover from the shock, the four lunatics casually walked into level 8 like it was their daily cardio. And at that point, the student body collectively gave up. I mean, what's the point anymore? Is this the Hunger Games? Eventually, 3 of them stumbled back out, Soo-hyo, In-ah, and Ju-sung, all looking like they'd been body-slammed by a mana tsunami. And then came Jae-hyun, sauntering out last, not a single hair out of place. Nearby, Ji-yoon offered a bit of helpful clarification. Starting from level 8, mana density increases dramatically. The pressure simulates a real dungeon environment. It's not just about magic control, it's about survival. With a perfectly chill expression, she marched straight to the gate of level 9. Let's move on. So the class pressed on. Minutes ticked by, and when they finally emerged from the 9th level, everyone looked like they had just smoked a mana brick. Coughing, wobbling, barely upright. And yet, Ji-yoon stood there watching like a judge on a cooking show. Not a single muscle moved to help. Why? Because Principal Gu had made it crystal clear. No matter how miserable they get, do not step in. Let 'em cook. Apparently, in Millis Academy, breakdowns were considered educational. And stealing that growth moment? Well, that would just be bad teaching. Back to our poor little adventurers, Seo In-ah had officially entered her "I'm fine, I swear" phase after exiting Gate 9. You know, that special kind of wobble where you're technically still conscious, but your soul is halfway filing for medical leave. Despite this, she stubbornly refused to let herself fall behind Jae-hyun. People always said, this is a world where only the strong survive. No matter how talented you were, there was always someone stronger ready to plant you face first into the dirt. There's no future for the weak. And well, it seemed today, she had to admit defeat. A few moments later, In-ah was gracefully loaded onto a stretcher and escorted to the infirmary like a fallen hero in an epic tragedy, minus the soundtrack and slow-motion effects. Meanwhile, Jae-hyun, inspired by In-ah's resolve, or maybe just running on pure curiosity, decided to go for Gate 10. Yes. Gate 10. Even Ji-yoon, the instructor who looked like she'd seen everything, was caught off guard. That place was tough, so tough even she didn't walk in there without mentally riding her will first. Alarmed, she tried to stop him. This level isn't meant for new students. But all she got in return was Jae-hyun's usual calm, mildly smug poker face. Sighing in defeat, she decided to accompany him inside, just in case he turned into magical puree. But as they progressed deeper into the level, she started to notice something strange. Very strange. Wait a second, this kid isn't struggling. At all. No gasping for breath. No mana nosebleed. Not even a single drop of dramatic sweat. And that's when it hit her, Jae-hyun might not just be talented. He might be an actual walking cheat code. A few hours into the school day, Instructor Ji-yoon turned to the class with her best, stern but encouraging, teacher tone. Great work today, everyone. Seriously. You gave it your all. Especially you, Min Jae-hyun, well done making it to Mana Chamber level 10. For the record, only seasoned conquerors even dare to walk in there. I hope the rest of you work hard to catch up with him. Now whether that was actual praise or low-key reverse psychology is up for debate. Was she motivating them, or baiting them into trying something stupid? Who knows? After class wrapped up, Jae-hyun, being a halfway decent human, checked in on his 2 battlefield buddies. Luckily, the medical report came back mostly positive. Ju-sung, with her usual gremlin energy, was already bouncing around like someone who'd overdosed on sugar and revenge. As for Seo In-ah, she wasn't seriously injured either, just bruised pride and mild mana trauma. At first, Jae-hyun used to think In-ah was just overly competitive. But now, he wasn't so sure. Maybe her drive to win wasn't just about ego. Maybe she was running from something. Either way, if she kept pushing herself without checking her emotions, she was going to burn out fast. Still, Jae-hyun had faith. He believed she could change. Just like people such as President Song-un, Jae Sang-hyung, or even Hwa Jun once did. And Kim Ju-sung? That chaos gremlin was already halfway there. No doubt about it. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the school, Soo Hyuk was having a full-on internal crisis. How in the world did that monster Jae-hyun make it all the way to level 10? And if he ever found out that Jae-hyun had also casually obliterated a mana block? Yeah, mental breakdown incoming. While Soo Hyuk was busy stewing in confusion and self-doubt, another student walked into the scene. Perfect timing. He could finally ask Minsu about the mysterious overachiever. That guy? He was the top scorer in this year's entrance exam, Minsu answered like it was common knowledge. Yeah. Everyone and their grandma knows that, Soo Hyuk grumbled. What I'm asking is, where the heck did this guy come from? After teasing the redhead for a bit, because Minsu never misses a chance to be annoying, he finally spilled the tea on Jae-hyun's background. Now, you'd think Soo Hyuk would be impressed, maybe even a little inspired. But nope. This guy's logic processor was glitching. Okay, but that has to be cheating, right? There's no way he's that strong legit. Little did he know, Minsu himself used to think Jae-hyun wouldn't even beat Selena or Kim Ju-sung, let alone the entire leaderboard. That evening, back in Jae-hyun's new dorm room, he received a casual call from Student Council President Song-un. Hey, how'd the entrance exam go? She asked, already knowing full well he'd crushed it. Totally not suspicious timing. Anyway, I wanted to hear your opinion on some of the promising students, she added smoothly. You know, for evaluation purposes. There might even be a reward involved. At the mention of reward, Jae-hyun's ears perked up like a hungry puppy. In less than 5 seconds, he was dishing out detailed reports on Selena and Kim Ju-sung like a seasoned gossip blogger on deadline. And don't forget Ah Ho-jun from the Warrior class, Jae-hyun added, wrapping up his mini-podcast on promising recruits. Those 3 were the most eye-catching during the entrance trials. Oh, and there's one more guy worth keeping an eye on. After dropping that final breadcrumb, he ended the call. On the other end, Student Council President Song-un leaned back and pondered the last name Jae-hyun mentioned. Lee Jae-sang. Yeah, she knew that name. He wasn't exactly making headlines at the academy, more like being completely ignored thanks to his so-called lack of talent. But blood ties were still blood ties. And if they got involved with that kid, it would definitely stir up drama with Lee Jae-shin. Messing with family politics was like poking a sleeping dragon with a pointy stick. Dangerous. Unnecessary. Entertaining if you're not the one getting burned. So should we just let it go and pretend we didn't hear that? Absolutely not, Jae-hyun had said earlier, like he was declaring prophecy. Because Lee Jae-sang is going to become the world's greatest alchemist. Well then. Guess we're doing this. Just as Song-un was letting that sink in, her assistant Sun Jae knocked and stepped in. President, someone's here to see you. Moments later, the guest arrived and introduced herself, Bae Jae-hyun. Her polite bow couldn't hide the fact that she radiated merchant energy. You could practically smell the contracts in her bag. From the way they spoke, it was obvious, she and Song-un weren't exactly besties. Acquaintances? Sure. Allies? Maybe. Friends? Hard pass. As for why she'd gone through all the trouble to come here in person? Simple. Bae Jae-hyun was here for one thing, to make an offer on a certain student from the Yonghwa Guild. So tell me, President Song-un, how much is that boy worth to you? If she thought she'd get a number, she clearly didn't know Song-un well enough. The council president calmly replied, you might want to look elsewhere. We don't put price tags on our members. Translation, he's not for sale. And even if he were, no amount of gold could buy a talent like that anyway. Bae Jae-hyun took the rejection like a pro, no tantrums or threats. She wasn't expecting much anyway. Coming here was more of a formality. A show of manners before moving on to more flexible negotiations. After all, just because you don't care about money doesn't mean he doesn't, right? Fast forward to the next morning, and it's time for the good OL physical ability test. No surprises, Aho Jun, the sword prodigy himself, took the top spot with a clean 101 points. But the real eyebrow raiser? Coming in second was none other than Min Jae-hyun, the mage. Yep, a wizard just casually flexing like he belongs in the warrior class. It shocked the class. It depressed the man himself. See, second place wasn't bad. But for Jae-hyun, it was a painful reminder, in raw physical ability, he still couldn't outmatch Aho Jun. The boy was trying to prove something, and fast, because he didn't know when that guy would strike again. Unfortunately, soul-searching wasn't in today's schedule, because here came Zhu Sung, crashing his mood with her usual brand of chaos. How does a mage get second place in a physical exam, huh? She asked, mouth running faster than her brain. Excuse me, Jae-hyun deadpanned. I almost applied to the warrior department, thank you very much. Meanwhile, standing at a distance with the ultimate teacher stare, Instructor Selji had his eyes locked onto Jaehyun's every move. Just as Principal Gu predicted, this kid wasn't your average wand-waving mage. No, Jaehyun was packing something extra, something dangerously impressive. After a short moment of silence and mysterious inner monologue, Selji clapped his hands and called the class to attention. Alright, kids. Time for our second physical ability test, AR room escape. The second Jaehyun heard that, it clicked. This is it. The infamous test at Millis Academy designed to push students to their absolute limit, mentally, physically, emotionally, possibly even spiritually. Up front, Selji continued with his ever-so-comforting explanation. This is an escape simulation using full-scale AR. Each of you will wear a device that tracks your vitals and enhances your combat senses using a hyper-realistic virtual battlefield. The goal is simple, escape. Oh, but of course, it's never that simple. There's a twist, Selji added with a smirk. The system only measures your escape skills, but if any of you feel bold enough to slay the monsters, you'll earn more points. The class collectively gulped. After all, slaying monsters is kind of the whole point of being a hunter, isn't it? You kill monsters, grab loot, flex your gear, basic life cycle stuff. And if you can't even do that much, well, maybe this school isn't for you. With a smug little nod, Instructor Selji began handing out what looked like oversized earbuds to each student. These, he explained, are neural interface receivers. Fancy way of saying they help the AR system make your brains think monsters are real. Cool. Totally not terrifying. These devices stimulate your brain to enhance realism. You'll see, hear, and feel the monsters, but don't worry, they're just digital illusions. No actual limbs will be lost. Big relief. Oh, and one more thing, Selji added, as casually as someone announcing lunch, the AR system has levels from 1 to 100, but today we'll keep things chill and stop at level 10. Chill, he says. Each group will have 4 people. Try not to get traumatized. As groups were called up, Jaehyun ended up in group 3, alongside 2 martial arts girls who looked like they could bench press a tank, and another mage student who seemed decent enough. And just before the battle even started, guess who popped up with that annoying main character rival energy? Yep, Soo Hyuk. He sauntered over and shot Jaehyun a look. Hey, just curious, how exactly did you get first place in the last exam? You hiding some secret cheat code or something? The implication was obvious, no one believed Jaehyun just worked hard. Because why admit someone might just be that good, right? Before the 3D monsters even had a chance to pop up, Group 3 was already busy, fighting each other. Classic. Turns out, internal drama doesn't wait for virtual enemies. Fortunately, the 2 girls from the martial arts class quickly stepped in like part-time referees. Because, well, if they knocked each other out before the test even started, they'd all fail together. Not exactly a winning strategy. With the instructor barking at them to get moving, they put their drama on pause. For now. The 4 students moved forward, standing in place as the countdown began. 5, 4, 3. And boom! The first monster materialized, a skeleton soldier. Textbook starter enemy. As expected of a proper mage, Soo-hyuk immediately backed away to maintain distance. Gotta keep the squishy body safe, right? But then, plot twist. Jaehyun did the exact opposite. He charged forward. Everyone blinked. What kind of mage runs toward the enemy? Answer, one with a personal vendetta. Jaehyun wasn't attacking the monster, he was sending a message to a certain red-haired loudmouth standing behind him. A nice little, shut up forever statement, delivered in magic. Time to flex for real. With a flash of light and a blast of energy, Jaehyun unleashed his skill. It was smooth. It was flashy. It was over in 5 seconds. The poor skeleton didn't even get a swing in. The group stood there, stunned. Apparently, this wasn't just some reckless suicide run, it was calculated. And devastating. Of course, this was just the warm-up round. The real monsters hadn't even gotten started yet. Round 2 of level 1 kicked off with the sudden appearance of 3 bony boys, yep, more skeletons. But just like before, Jaehyun wasted 0 time. He waltzed in, snatched the aggro like he was stealing candy from a zombie baby, and sent one of the skeletons straight back to bone heaven with a punch fueled by pure disrespect. Then came the real flex. He activated Mana Weapon, a skill so rare for mages that most don't even bother unlocking it. Why? Because it boosts physical damage. And what kind of mage punches things? Apparently, this one. In just a few blinks, the other 2 skeletons joined their fallen brother on the ground. The rest of the team? Still processing what just happened. Level 1, cleared. Contribution rate, 100%. Name, Min Jaehyun. Next up, Level 2. Time for some undead terror, courtesy of the legendary Norse creature, the Draugr. Big, ugly, reanimated corpses with a grudge. Scary? Maybe for other people. But to Jaehyun, they were basically mosquitoes in a group cosplay. Sure, it took a few seconds longer. But in the end, they got clapped just like the rest. Easy. And so it continued. Jaehyun soloed all 10 levels of the AR test like it was a tutorial mission. No injuries. No drama. Just casual domination. That's when Soo-hyuk finally started to question reality. He stared at Jaehyun, his brain buffering. How the hell? Are you seriously telling me a mage just walked in there and soloed everything like a berserker? No way. You cheated. You had to have cheated. Jaehyun gave him the kind of look that says, I don't have time for your conspiracy theories, bro. And with the calm of someone who's been insulted by amateurs before, he replied. If you're so sure, why don't you hop in there yourself and find out? Soo-hyuk almost choking on his own bravado. Thankfully, Instructor Selji was nearby to drag him out of the awkward moment before he made it worse. Saved by the bell, or in this case, by a responsible A. Hey, you lot. Quit messing around and get down here. At first, everyone thought this was just an easy win, but turns out, surprise, they were up against some real stubborn folks. Right before heading off, Soo-hyo couldn't help but shout back at Jae-hoon, don't get too cocky. When the Millis Academy Festival comes around, you and I, one-on-one, no holding back. And Jae-hoon? Cool as ever. Just smirked and replied, yeah. I've already got something else in mind for that. Later that afternoon, in the Millis boys' dormitory, Hojin was lying on his bed, lost in thought. He replayed that moment between Jae-hoon and Soo-hyo and started wondering, wait, does Jae-hoon see me like that too? Well, to be fair, Hojin did tell him before that he'd get payback, eventually. But now? This didn't feel like the time to daydream about heroic comebacks. He couldn't just lie there like a deflated pancake and disappoint both himself and Jae-hoon. So, he yanked his shirt on, hyped himself up, and made a dramatic sprint straight to the training field. Meanwhile, in a totally different location, cue ominous music. One of the academy's instructors was briskly walking through the halls, on a mission to report to the principal about the students' performance. As you might expect, the hot topic of the day was none other than Min Jae-hoon. The moment the door creaked open, the principal greeted him not with suspicion or annoyance, but a cheerful, almost suspicious thank you. "All right," the principal said, cracking his knuckles like a supervillain, "give me the physical test results." According to Seltzi's report, only 3 students managed to get perfect scores in the physical evaluation. No surprise there, Hojin, and of course, the legend himself, Min Jae-hoon. But here's the kicker, Jae-hoon's score didn't just hit the max, it broke past it. Like, who does that? The more the instructor explained, the wider the principal's toothy grin got. At this point, it looked less like a smile and more like he was preparing to hatch some mysterious, overly dramatic master plan. Over on Jae-hoon's side of the world, things were business as usual. The guy was basically living in the AR training arena at this point. With his current skills, he'd managed to solo his way up to AR level 27. Pretty impressive, right? But unfortunately, that was also where the elevator stopped. Ding. Top floor. At that level, he was strong enough to go toe-to-toe with 6 C-rank punishers all by himself. Not bad for a Tuesday. But Jae-hoon wasn't training just to look cool. Based on his calculations, and let's face it, he was probably right, the next exam would be a simulated dungeon run. Sounds fun? Not really. In his past life, one of those dungeon exams went so catastrophically wrong, it became a black mark on Millis Academy's history. We're talking full-on disaster. Hundreds of students were lost in that mess, including his entire team. So this time? Jae-hoon wasn't going to let history repeat itself. Not on his watch. He was here to rewrite the script. The next day, right after the theory class wrapped up, Selena and Ju Sung made a beeline for Jae-hoon like 2 fans chasing spoilers. They were clearly stressed about the upcoming practical, because, nothing says fun school day like a deathtrap dungeon simulation. Before either of them could even finish their panicked sentences, Jae-hoon casually pulled out something that looked suspiciously like a tiny flame. Yep, just handed it to them like he was offering snacks. "This," he said, with the confidence of someone who's read all the cheat codes, "is going to be very useful inside the dungeon." And just like that, the mood flipped from panic to curiosity. Because when Jae-hoon pulls out mysterious flaming objects, you know something big is about to go down. Another day, another dungeon. Just like that, it was already time for the first official hands-on dungeon test. While the other students were nervously double-checking their gear, Jae-hoon? He was busy. Warming up. See, for most mages, no matter how talented they are, using high-level spells always comes with a little something called mana backlash. Translation? You cast a fancy spell, and your internal organs might file for early retirement. And in Jae-hoon's case, it was even riskier. His 2 main spells, Logic and Sacrifice, weren't just high-level, they were practically mana grenades. So yeah, he wasn't just warming up, he was making sure his body didn't explode when things got real. Just as he was finishing up his magical stretches, the system popped up like an overexcited intern with a new assignment. New main quest, activated. This time, it wasn't a quick errand or a go fetch 5 mushrooms kind of mission. No, this was a long-term quest, packed with drama and choices. According to the system, every major decision he'd make would now carry extra weight. Moments of deepest desire? Time to decide, repeat the past or forge a new path. Rewards and punishments? Unknown. Mysterious. Suspiciously vague. Looking at the new quest info, Jae-hoon couldn't help but raise an eyebrow and sigh internally. Seriously? These gods must be really desperate to speedrun my character development. He had a feeling they were up there watching him like it was their favorite soap opera. A few hours later, inside Millis Academy's simulated dungeon. And no, this wasn't just some fancy VR experience with cool effects and background music. This was the real deal, with actual monsters and actual screaming, probably. Today's trial was a joint exercise between the warrior class and the mage class. The twist? Everyone had to draw lots to form random teams. Yes, random. Like rolling the dice on whether your teammate is a future hero, or someone who forgot which end of the sword to hold. The moment instructor Ji-yoon made the announcement, the crowd of students immediately turned into a human-sized popcorn machine. Everyone was jumping, whispering, or outright groaning. Sure, it sounded logical in theory: teamwork, evaluation, fair play. But let's be real, if you were lucky enough to land someone overpowered on your team, congratulations. Your dungeon run would be a walk in the park. If not? Well, time to mentally prepare for an educational beatdown. Up front, Ji-yoon raised a hand for silence. Somehow, she pulled it off. This practical exam, she explained, is designed for evaluation. The monsters inside are all within your current skill range. Totally believable. At least for most people. But Jae-hoon? He wasn't buying it for a second. Ji-yoon herself? Okay, fine. She was competent and generally trustworthy. But the principal, Gu Jae-in? That man was a walking scam in a suit. If he told you the sky was blue, you'd better double-check. According to Jae-hoon's memories, while most of the dungeon's monsters were low-level grunts, there were definitely a few boss-tier nightmares lurking inside, just waiting to ruin someone's GPA. And if his memory served him right, during this very trial, Gu Jae-in would make one tiny slip-up, a rare mistake. And that mistake? Might just be the opening Jae-hoon needed. As far as he was concerned, this wasn't just a dungeon run. This was the start of a rematch with fate, with bonus M. Alright, time to draw your teams. With the tone of someone about to unleash chaos, Instructor Ji-yoon began calling out students one by one to draw lots. And wouldn't you know it, by some magical coincidence, Jae-hoon ended up on the same team as Selena. Joining them were two students from the warrior class, Kim Ji-na and Sung-woo. But the moment Jae-hoon saw their faces, he froze for a split second, his mind replaying a painful memory from his previous life. These two, they were the ones who held back the dungeon boss so he could escape. The sacrifice hadn't left his heart, and now fate had tossed them back into his party like it was some twisted reunion special. Suddenly, the system's earlier message made sense. Two paths: repeat the past or change everything. After the dramatic emotional flashback, the group quickly introduced themselves like any awkward RPG party meeting for the first time. That's when Jae-hoon discovered a little surprise: Selena, future genius mage and TV sensation, was actually painfully shy. Like, barely make eye contact and mumble into her boots, shy. And thinking back, he realized that might have been why she had that cold, mysterious aura on TV in his past life. She wasn't trying to look cool. She just didn't know how to small talk. As for Ji-na and Sung-woo? Exactly how he remembered them: confident, straightforward, and very much let's kill the monster first, ask questions never. Once the intros were out of the way, it was time to move on to the next critical step: planning. First up, who's the team leader? Cue the most awkward silence known to mankind. Eventually, after some friendly debate, they agreed on a strategy and assigned roles. Naturally, Jae-hoon took a lead position, not because he demanded it, but because no one else had any clue what they were doing. Before they entered the dungeon, he made sure to say one last thing. No matter what happens in there, no one runs. We stick together. It sounded heroic. Inspirational. And deep down, Jae-hoon meant every word. This time, no one was going to die for him. Especially for the one leading the charge. If the vanguard backs down, the rest of the team might as well start writing their wills. Sung-woo, standing nearby, gave a nod of admiration. Man, you really are the top student of our year. Nice compliment, though if he knew Jae-hoon was actually 27 years old on the inside, he might have dialed that praise down a notch. Right then, Instructor Ji-yoon's voice echoed from above. Time's up. All teams, prepare to enter the simulation dungeon now. Jae-hoon's team gathered up, giving each other final glances of determination, until they caught sight of something odd. Just across the way, they spotted Ju-sung, the class chatterbox, getting teamed up with Ho-jun. Fate sure has a weird sense of humor. Still, Jae-hoon wasn't too upset. That meant Ho-jun's team at least had someone capable. With him around, their squad probably wouldn't end up limping out covered in bruises and regrets. Soon after, Ji-yoon called out team by team, assigning dungeon entrances based on the team leader's role. Alright, let's get this show on the road, shall we? A few minutes later, inside the dark, echo-filled halls of the simulation dungeon. Over at Ho-jun's team, things were already getting shaky. The two girls on the squad were clearly not ready for this, wide-eyed, gripping their weapons like they were holding cursed objects. To be fair, it was their first time stepping into a dungeon, and not just any dungeon, it was a mine-type dungeon. Which, in gamer terms, meant tight spaces, bad lighting, and a 100% guarantee of weird noises behind you. Naturally, Ju-sung took it upon herself to lighten the mood. So what if this place is actually an abandoned diamond mine and the monsters are just angry miners who didn't get paid? Great theory. Except, right on cue, boom. A low rumble shook the walls. Instant karma, courtesy of the dungeon gods. Suddenly, growls echoed from all directions. Within seconds, the team found themselves surrounded by a pack of dungeon wolves. Sure, they looked kind of scruffy, like oversized angry huskies, but fighting off a whole group. Not exactly a walk in the park. Especially not when half the team was still emotionally recovering from Ju-sung's diamond conspiracy theory. In the heat of the moment, Team Captain Ho-jun stepped up to take the frontline role like a proper action hero. Meanwhile, Ju-sung, never one to wait around, blasted out a radiant burst of holy light that sent a group of low-level wolves straight to the respawn queue. The other two teammates, while not quite as flashy, pulled their weight too. They backed up Ho-jun with solid support, covering flanks and managing not to panic, which, in a beginner dungeon, is already a win. Then, with a wild grin and zero hesitation, Ju-sung unleashed another one of her favorite spells, Hyem's Tempest. Yeah, the name sounded like a sneeze, but the result? Total wipeout. The last wave of wolves got launched like bowling pins, and boom, mission clear. The team finally let out a collective sigh of relief. No injuries, no disasters. Well, okay. Almost no injuries. Technically, 3 of them were fine. But off in the corner, Ho-jun was slumped down like someone had just unplugged his soul. He sat there wobbling, breathing like he'd just run 3 marathons in full armor. Is he okay? One of the teammates whispered, eyes wide. Ju-sung finally put 2 and 2 together, squinting dramatically like a detective mid-episode. Oh, he's got that look. He's having one of those magical overload moments. You know, the I just got hit by an invisible truck syndrome. But it wasn't just mana fatigue. Ju-sung could feel it now too, the oppressive pressure hanging thick in the air. And that's when the pieces clicked. This wasn't over. Not even close. Lurking ahead was something far more dangerous than scrappy dungeon wolves. The Lord of the Kobolds. King of the beastly wolves. And judging by the weight of mana pressing on them, he was very aware that his guests had just wiped out his minions. Meanwhile, deep inside the dungeon assigned to Team 3, Jae-hoon's squad had been moving forward for a good while, and still, not a single monster in sight. Not that Jae-hoon minded. If anything had shown up, he would have just vaporized it before anyone else had time to blink. So really, the silence was kind of earned. Still, the lack of enemies was starting to feel less like a blessing and more like the setup for a horror movie. And right on cue, plot twist incoming. Up ahead, the tunnel widened into what looked like a large cave. But this wasn't just any random dungeon decor. No. Jae-hoon recognized this spot. It was the handiwork of none other than Principal Gu Jian, the academy's most suspiciously creative administrator. The kind of guy who probably thought fair challenge meant hiding a dragon in a math test. But what Gu Jian didn't account for was Jae-hoon 2.0. A version of himself who already knew the playbook and was fully prepared to flip the table. Jae-hoon held up a hand, stopping the group. Everyone stay sharp. Something's coming. Probably something ugly. Selena, wide-eyed, clutched her staff a little tighter. Songwoo cracked his knuckles. Ji-na took a deep breath. And Jae-hoon? He gave the order like a boss. Plan C, defense first. Then hit M so hard they regret spawning. Whatever was waiting in that cave, it wasn't going to catch this team off guard. Barely had Jae-hoon finished his warning when, like monsters had been eavesdropping the whole time, a horde suddenly burst out of the darkness. Leading the charge? A massive, slobbering wolf the size of a compact car, flanked by a gang of lesser beasts that looked like they'd been picked off a discount villain rack. If you think this video is insanely awesome, don't forget to like and subscribe, and turn on the bell to catch all the latest updates.